Welcome to the Voices of the Caring Place, where hope has a voice and transformation has a story. Every meal served, every bread prepared, every prayer whispered is powered by compassion and community. The Caring Place is more than a shelter. It is a movement fueled by businesses, churches, and everyday heroes working together to change lives. Today, we're honored to welcome Steve Solomon to the conversation. Well, welcome, Steve, to the show.
Thank you.
Director of the Christian Business Men in South Florida, and we're great to have you here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I always say it's funny that God brought a Jewish kid from Yonkers to run a Christian businessmen's organization in South Florida, and I don't speak any Spanish.
Wow.
But I grew up in Yonkers, and I grew up Jewish, and I came to the Lord in 91. And got involved with CBMC, which stands for Christian Businessmen's Connection, in 94, and been connected with them ever since.
So I'm sure that, you know, as we reach those that are going to be listening to the podcast, that you would like to share a little bit about what your organization does and what you represent.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
Just that the Lord rescued you and you know, and put you in this position. He has a great sense of humor, right? He took a man like me, and I changed my life in the middle of Liberty City, Overtown, and you've changed your life from New York to Miami to lead mostly Hispanic community. So tell us what your organization represents and what it does and what it's all about. Tell us a little bit about that.
The biggest place that men, and we're an organization that ministers to men, but the biggest place where men are all the time is in the marketplace.
Correct.
Working and everything.
Or being providers for their family.
Exactly. So what we do is we reach out to men in the marketplace and we empower them through groups and training and mentoring and discipleship to deploy them as ambassadors for Jesus Christ and where they work and what they do in the business community and in their communities with their churches, with their families and all that. We've been doing that in South Florida since 1959, but nationwide since 1930.
Wow.
And we are the largest marketplace ministry in the world. We're in 96 countries with over 100,000 members throughout the world.
And you know, we've always heard that phrase around man's man, and it's hard to reach men sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a strong calling in your life to be able to reach men that sometimes we don't want to talk, sometimes we don't want to open up, sometimes we don't want to share what we're struggling with and what we're going with. Take us through that a little bit.
What we have are different ways of reaching men. We have different small groups. We have one that's called the Connect Three, the three representing the sovereignty of God, the importance of the individual, and the leverage of a team. Building community of men, and they meet once a week, once every other week. We have over 30 of them in just the South Florida area. And they meet, they connect, they pray for each other, and they hold each other accountable.
They build relationships.
And they build the relationships, and they get marketplace spiritual teaching so that when they're out there, they're delivering on what God has intended working for Him.
And people sometimes will open up when you show them how much you really care. You just don't show up. You show up. You're there for them. You help them. You might even find yourself in probably situations that maybe we could talk about a little bit more as we record. But as this organization, the Christian Business Men here in South Florida, as you do your work, what is your organization's commitment to this community?
Our commitment is to get involved in the business community so that our men are doing the things the right way. They're building relationships. They're bringing God into what they're doing so that businesses are run according to biblical principles. Men are doing their jobs according to biblical principles. And they're getting involved in their churches. They're getting involved in and they're connecting and they're breaking, like you said, got to break those walls down. Because if you ask a guy, how you doing, what does he tell you?
He says, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
It's the regular answer.
Meanwhile, his life is falling apart and you know, he's going down a path. He's got kids that are in trouble.
I like that. And some of us also, we get into a mode as Christians, as men in business, we think we know it all. And because we've been around a place, we forget how to serve. We forget how to do the things that God has called us to do. And I love what you said, that you got to put God in your business first, not you first and then God second. So I'm glad that you guys are out there and your organization is committed to putting God first, and then the rest of it will follow. How is it that you get them to commit to go into those groups?
So we take them through several steps. The number one thing that we do is we have events that connect men, that bring them in and connect. We have two luncheons. We're going to start a third up in Fort Lauderdale. We have one in Boca. So the events are public. Anybody can come, men, women, anybody. We have a luncheon on the second Tuesday of every month in Boca Raton at Abe and Louie's restaurant, which is right on Glades Road. And we bring in a speaker who is interviewed and shares his life experience, strong Christian businessman. And he shares his path and how he came to the Lord and everything, so that the people that are out there in that audience get motivated to get connected to God, number one, and number two, to what we're doing.
Yeah, without God, nothing is possible. With God, everything is possible. So
the second one we have is at the 94th Aero Squadron here in Miami.
Oh, that's a staple right there by the airport.
Absolutely. And it's always the last Tuesday of every month. We have Billy Thompson, who played championship with the Los Angeles Lakers, with Magic Johnson, and with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and several of the other players. Also played on championship college and also in Israel. He's now pastor of a church for 25 years up in Deerfield Beach, and he'll be sharing. The idea is get somebody that people want to see so that they come. And then once they connect
and
with
what
us,
a journey to hear from like an NBA star that had it all, probably had millions, and probably still does. I don't know. But that he is called by God. He comes out and he's now speaking and making sure that men are overcoming the barriers that probably he had to overcome, and he had to fight, and he had to go through.
But we've had other businessmen like Mike Pappas, who's chairman of the board for Kai's Realty, which is the largest residential realty in the state of Florida. Bill Hansen, Hansen Catering, largest in South Florida.
Oh.
But you can name it. We've had those speakers talking for us.
Well, it's a good thing that men can open up this way. So as we're getting to know each other, right?
Yep.
And we just started our relationship. What is meaningful about the Caring Place to you?
What your mission is just incredible. Back for years, I've been bringing clothes to your place on First Avenue and dropping off all my spare clothes.
Full circle. Now you're sitting on the podcast.
Yeah, and now I'm sitting on the podcast. But what you've done is just incredible. Helping the homeless on a temporary transition, getting them off the street and getting them rolling. And let me tell you, it's a lot of heroes. It's not, what I've done is those that 103 years, it's a long time. It's a legacy. It's many lives changed. So, I like to partner with winners, but I also like to partner with those that are down and out so that we can turn them into winners. Absolutely.
And I think that both of our organizations are en route to doing the same thing, to making sure that we are creating champions for Christ, and we're making sure that they stay connected to the different things that are in this community to honor God and to do the different things of God. So how is your organization looking to change the future of South Florida for the better?
Number one is we want to focus on one man at a time. And I mean, in groups, yes. But if we don't change that individual, how are we going to change what's going on?
That concept that the Lord had, right? He left the 99 to go look for the one.
You take our groups, for instance. I mentioned the Connect 3 groups, but we also have a group that's just for business owners, business executives, so that not only are they changing themselves, but the people that work for them and also companies that they're connecting with.
Yeah.
So that they know there's a difference in this guy than all the other people I work with. There's a difference in this company than all the other ones. And we have those groups throughout the Tri-County area.
Tell us a little bit about one of the greatest or the best stories that you've had to come out of the Connect group? I'm sure you have a lot of them.
Yep. So we have cigar nights too, cigar fellowship nights.
Okay.
And I met someone, I won't mention his name, but I met him at a networking event. He came to our cigar night, and he was kind of Jewish, raised in Philadelphia, kind of searching among all the religions and faith for what's the real answer, well, who's God? He was at a cigar night, and that particular cigar night, only 4 people showed up, but it was the right 4 people. And he was led to accept Christ that night.
Wow.
This last summer at our men's retreat in Deerfield Beach, he was baptized in the ocean.
Wow, glory to God.
That's just one. And the way he runs his business, he's got the vertical right. God is at the head. Amen. And he runs his business with all the principles. And he's only 28 years old, 27 years old.
A lot of people that he's going to share the gospel and his transformation with, his testimony.
Could you imagine what he would have been if he didn't meet up, if God didn't...
If this group did not exist?
Yeah.
Where would he be?
I don't know.
Well, tell us a little bit about the retreat. You mentioned it, so now we want to hear about it.
Okay, so we have 2 types of retreats. One we have where it's usually at the Deerfield Beach, at the Wyndham Hotel. This year we may tweak it a little bit and bring wives along, but not have them part of our men's portion.
Correct.
Just the couples can get together, and we bring in speakers that are marketplace, but impact
your walk with Christ.
Walk with Christ.
Yes.
And that can go, it's usually one night and full day the next Saturday. And then we follow up, and those guys are in our groups.
If there's somebody out there listening, a business person that just might have clicked on our site, what would you say to that person? How would you reach them?
I would say reach out, go on our website, whatever, it's cbmcsouthflorida.com. But the biggest thing that they can do is invest the time to come to a lunch, come to a cigar night, come to one of our public events. You take a look at me. I went to a luncheon. We have a discipleship program that is nothing better in the marketplace. It's called Operation Timothy, after the Paul and Timothy model.
Okay.
I went through that with Steve Essler in 1994. 32 years later, he's still my mentor.
Wow.
Where do you get that?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. And that's what we can deliver. For business owners who are struggling with what a direction and everything, we have spiritual advisors within that group that can help you. Even if you golf, we have a golf retreat in the fall.
A lot of people like golfing.
Yeah. And we have activities once a quarter. We had archery. We had shooting at a range. We had Topgolf. We're going to be doing in April pickleball.
Wow.
Can you imagine having fun playing pickleball and get a spiritual message at the same time?
No, and it's again, as we call it, it's all about relationships.
But it's that one-on-one.
Relationship with God, relationship with the community, and relationship with each other.
And it's not only, like you're saying, it's not only the relationship among ourselves, but it's getting that vertical relationship right. It was taught to me in 98, you get that vertical relationship right every day with God, God takes care of the horizontal.
Everything else falls into place.
And that's the cross.
So thank you, Steve. Thank you for being with us.
Oh,
thank you for
so much for
sharing your heart and speaking about what you do and how you do it, and you're so passionate about it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the Voices of the Caring Place.
God bless.
Thank you so much.
And I pray for you guys all the time. Man.
Thank you. We can sure use those prayers.
Okay.
Hello, caring friends, and welcome to the Voices of the Caring Place, where stories of hope, healing, and transformation come to life. In this segment, we're going to sit down with residents and graduates, all real stories from real people, to hear their journeys and powerful testimonies of change. Now, today we have a very, very special guest with us. You have heard so much throughout our stories about the Alpha classes and the Alpha program, and I am proud to announce that we have a graduate of Alpha 69. That's right, you heard it here, Alpha 69 with us here today. So without further ado, let me introduce George. Hi, George. Hi. Thanks so much for joining us today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm definitely doing better, but initially how I got to the caring place. And came down here to be a part of a church, and just things didn't go well, and I ended up on the streets.
So I understand you're originally from Pensacola,
I'm
correct?
originally from Pensacola,
and then you
yes.
found your way down to Miami.
Yes.
So when you were in Miami, what led you to the doors of now known as the Caring Place at Miami Rescue Mission?
What led me to the doors? I had never been homeless in my life. I come from a decent family. What led me, my first night out sleeping, believe it or not, I slept in front of the AutoZone on what's that, Northeast 2nd, right there where the grocery store is across the street. Right in front of the AutoZone, because I was afraid to sleep anywhere else. And then I started to learn the circuit, as they say, where you go to eat at. And I went to the sisters over by the hospital, by Jackson Hospital. And when I came to the caring place, what happened was during dinner time, there was no cursing, there was no arguing, and I come from a Christian background. And I recognized that immediately. And I was tore up, and I didn't want to leave. And I talked to the guy that was there, and then immediately like that, I was like in the program. And that was what led me to the caring place. Just that peace, and man, it's amazing the difference that I felt being away from God and then going to different places to eat and noticing how aggravated it was, and then still being in the cycle of addiction, being out of control.
Let's go back in time. What did that meal mean to you?
You know, I say the meal definitely meant a lot to me, but I think it was the environment I got more captivated in, because as I said, you know, I went to other places and people were cursing and I was really afraid too, you know, not being from Miami and being on the streets of Miami during that time. You know, I was really afraid.
And you know, this is why we're grateful for all of our partners that make it possible for us to offer those meals. So after you had the meal and that you fell in love with the environment, what actually got you into the program? What made you decide to enter our Regeneration Alpha program?
It was definitely God, because it was nothing else. You know, I don't think that the mission could have offered me anything else, but just the fact that I was away from God, and I knew that. You know, it wasn't something that somebody had to teach me. I knew that I was away from God. And that environment just reminded me of that peaceful place, you know, where families sitting around talking and, you know, and laughing and carrying on, but nobody's like aggravated and cursing and all. You know, it was really chaos at those other places. You know, I thank God for the food that I got there in that time, but that's what made it easy to make the transition to come to the caring place. You know, and the love from the staff. You know, that's the other thing I fell in love with, you know, with the staff at the caring place.
That's amazing. So then you enter our program, and we already know that you graduated as Alpha 69. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what the program was then and how you kind of went through it?
I tell people this, you know, I'm a finisher. You know, I finished 4 recovery programs to the door, and I had some change. But with the caring place, what happened was I'm talented and I had some gifts, and I was able to use those gifts immediately and become a part of the family, because I was a part of the Regeneration Singers, the band, and we did a lot of outreach and evangelism and singing and representing the caring place, you know, and that was where I was locked in too, because I got a chance to mingle with some of the staff who they made me feel like family. I think one of my memories was Mama Brummett. And she would come and she would say, she would have Mondays that she would come and she would call it the inner circle. And to be around a lady of that caliber who was not afraid, who embraced you, who treated you like family, that was a big deal, you know, because you see in a lot of corporations and ministries where you never see the people up top. They don't mingle. They don't co-mingle. They don't treat you. That changed me. Because I was trying to figure out, man, why would this lady,
That's incredible. Hearts of gold.
I mean,
that's what you see here.
It still affects me to this day. I brag on this place. In Pensacola, I actually work at the thrift store in Pensacola.
Well, I'm so glad that we were able to impact you and that our staff members and Marilyn Brome and everyone that we have at the Center for Men was able to impact your life. Now, what I think is an incredible story is that you're a graduate and now you're working. So what's some of your life now after being a graduate of the Caring Place?
Well, to be completely transparent, it still was not easy, because I still had to go back to my home. I still had to go back around people, places, and things, and it was hard. And actually, I fell back. Wow. And I had 2 heart attacks.
The path is never easy.
No, but I learned so much.
Amen.
I learned so much, and that's what makes this time here, so, man. I cherish it because I'm on the right track. I'm doing what's right. And God is using me, and I'm able to come back and say, you know what, it works. Yes, we stumble. Yes, we fall back. Yes, we have. But if you're grounded and you have the right tools in place, that you can make it. Yeah.
So over 10 years ago that you were here, and now you're employed at a thrift store in Pensacola. You moved. Yes, there is trials. Yes, there are tribulations, but look where you are now. Now, one of the things that our listeners don't know is you're in town visiting. Want to go and explain a little bit what you're doing now and why you're visiting us?
I actually took my vacation here. I took my vacation and I wanted to come back to where the ball started rolling, where things started happening, where people impacted my life. And I wanted to let them, let them see what they did for me, that it counted, that it mattered, regardless of what has happened. And being able to just, be a part of the Alpha class now, to share what God's doing in my life, being able to do groups and lead men in groups, it's been amazing because the challenges are the same. The people may change, but the challenges stay the same. And being able to share the same hope that was shared with me years ago, God don't change.
What the Caring Place would mean for them, what it meant to you, and why they should come to a resource like this, or even let the supporters know how they helped transform your life.
Speaking to the supporters first, the Caring Place has definitely built a reputation. The transparency has definitely been there. That's, for me, it's challenging because it's not challenging. I didn't have to go through a whole lot of decision planning to figure out where I wanted to go. I wanted to go somewhere where I know I could impact a life. And that's where your giving and your support helps, because it's reputable and you can actually see the change. For a person that's out there that may be still struggling with addiction and may not know where to go, the Caring Place is a place where you can go where you won't be judged. And you'll receive exactly what's being offered. And that's the love of Jesus Christ and hope for your life. And things do get better.
Amen to that. Well, George, thank you so much for joining us. Most importantly, as we said, welcome home. And thank you guys for tuning in.
We've just launched our brand new merch store, featuring all the products and merchandise you use every day. But above all, every purchase you make helps provide food and shelter for men, women, and children coming out of homelessness. There's also a big variety of cuddle toys, t-shirts, unisex college sweat jackets, caps, unisex hoodies, tumblers, plus aprons, pillow covers, and so much more. Visit our merch store at www.caringplace.org/merch.
Well, that concludes the show of The Caring Place, and I thank you for listening to our podcast. Thank you for joining us and being with us. If you heard something on our podcast that changed your life, please connect with us. Remember, always, we need your help sharing the podcast, liking the podcast, and making sure you go to our website, learning what we're all about and what we're doing. Please reach out to us if you need prayer, if you need to connect with us. Thank you so much for listening to the Voices of the Caring Place.
Whoa. Hold on. Before you go, you got one last thing to do. You have to check out our 2025 in review. It's a powerful look at the incredible journey we've been on this past year and all that the Caring Place is doing for homeless men, women, children, and those in need in our community. So just scan the QR code or head to caringplace.org/highlights2025 and dive on in. And hey, one more thing, we want to hear from you. So drop a comment, tell us your favorite Bible verse, and help us get to know you better. And who knows, we may even feature it on our next episode.